Hello, hello, Carmen here. I am a myofunctional therapist. I'm also an educator, and I do this every week to educate my community. So I'm super happy you're here. My new blog came out today, and it was titled Myofunctional Therapy and Running on 8 Cylinders. So it talked about how I get a lot of clients who are not running in top form. So they're just kind of clunking along in life. They have low energy. They feel like terrible. And it kind of talked about that. So my topic today is, how do you know that something is broken until you know it's broken? So I know it sounds like a redundant question, but I have so many clients who they have no idea. They might have an idea that something's wrong, but until I point out the obvious, they're like, how did I not know this? So that's what I'm going to be talking about. Really, you don't know it. I think there's a quote, and I always misquote this, that the eyes only see what the mind knows. So typically, let me unpack that a little bit. Typically what that means for my clients, when I point stuff out to them, or say I meet somebody for their free assessment and I point out certain things, their mind now knows it, so their eyes see it. And it absolutely drives them berserk because I talk about having the mouth closed or what the tongue posture should be. So they now suddenly know that, and they really tune into that. So that awareness is really, really important. So really, how I wanted to jump into this is just have you think about, are there things that you've been corrected on in your life that you never knew were incorrect? So my favorite example is my boyfriend, and he would probably bonk me on the head if he knew that I was telling this story, but he always said agave. So if he was talking about agave syrup, or he was talking about tequila and the agave plant, anything like that, he always said agave. And it wasn't until he's 48 years old that I say, babe, why do you call it agave? Like, it's something different. And so it kind of became a joke with us, and I wasn't necessarily trying to make fun of him, but I was trying to explain to him that he was doing something incorrect. So the same thing happens with myofunctional impairment. Is I have clients that will say, I had no idea. I just thought this was me, so I never knew. So first I want to talk about really the most common thing that I point out. Well, actually, I have a few things. We're going to talk about mouth breathing, chronic congestion, and sleep. So these are probably the big areas that I am always talking with somebody about, pointing out that something is broken. So mouth breathing. If your normal has always been mouth breathing, you don't know that you're supposed to nasal breathe. And really what happens a lot is I have parents who contact me for whatever reason, and then I'm telling them that nasal breathing is really the way that we're supposed to do it. So this is one of those areas where unless you know that you're supposed to be doing it different, some people get wind of it. So they'll read an article, or maybe they've seen one of my YouTube videos or read one of my blogs, something, that I have out there. And that's when they realize something is wrong. So they start digging and they start researching, and they kind of drop down into that rabbit hole, which is when they contact me and say, okay, now I really am I'm really interested in knowing why I do this or why it's wrong. So the other thing about mouth breathing is, you would be shocked at how many clients come to me after they've been to the ENT. The ENT has either taken tonsils out. Some clients have had nasal surgery to reduce the turbinates, deal with polyps, that kind of stuff. I like to call it roto-rooter out the nasal passages so that somebody can breathe better. And you would be surprised at the number of times that people come to me and nobody has told them, even after their nasal surgery, that they need to be nasal breathing. So that's absolutely bonkers to me that happens, but it does. Okay, so mouth breathing. You guys know, you've been following me long enough. Mouth breathing is not the healthy way. Nasal breathing is absolutely the way that we're supposed to do it. Next, chronic congestion. People just think that this is how you're supposed to live, being clogged up, runny nose, snotty children, living on allergy pills, all of those things. That is not the normal. And until I point it out to somebody that there could be things that they're doing that are causing chronic congestion, hello, mouth breathing is one. Also, a lot of people have an inflammatory diet. So it's important when I work with somebody that I get them nasal breathing. And if I'm struggling with the chronic congestion, we have to discover if it's pet dander, if it's dairy, if they have a really dusty, moldy environment that the kiddo or that person is living in. Because it's not normal to be chronically congested. And I think I've told you guys this before. I used to take 4 allergy meds. I used to be a mouth breather. I went through lots and lots of avenues trying to figure that out. And now that I just have figured out to shut my yap and breathe through my nose, I don't have to take any allergy pills, which is amazing because I didn't like how they made me feel anyhow. Last is sleep. So how many of you have terrible sleep quality, terrible sleep quantity, terrible sleep efficiency, which means you get in bed and you lay there because you don't fall asleep? So many of you have just accepted that I'm just not a good sleeper, or I've always slept terrible my whole life. And you never realize that something is wrong with that until we start digging or until you start researching or learning other stuff. So it's not normal. Our bodies need that sleep. I talk about this a lot, that you can't rejuvenate, you can't repair. Your body needs you to sleep and get deep sleep to be able to be repairing. So that's super important. So it's not normal. So it's broken. And when things are broken, that's part of what I do, is help you figure out how to get them fixed. I hope that helps. And I hope that makes sense to you and that you can kind of resonate with that for a minute, just on the fact that until somebody points something out to you, maybe you think it's okay. I've had young children that have had, and I have so many right now, that have such a severe tongue tie. And it really breaks my heart that they've gotten to 10, 12, 14 years old and nobody has ever told them that this is not normal. Nobody has ever told them that it has more to do than just not being able to lick an ice cream cone or a popsicle. There is so much more to it. And I'm just so thankful for the parents who learn a little bit, get some information, and then reach out for more help, because parents are starting to find out that certain things with their kiddos are broken, if you want to consider that. And parents are trying to figure out how to fix things and in what order. And that's where I help, because sometimes we have to deal with tonsils. Sometimes we have to deal with expansion because we have an airway crisis and sleep apnea that needs to be taken care of right now. We need to manage the airway. So that's what I do, is help. Next week, I'm going to be talking about what you will learn from a comprehensive exam. So I think this will probably be a very popular topic next week, because so many people come into my comprehensive exams not knowing, or they know a little bit, so their awareness has kind of started to pick up, and they are just amazed at what they learned. So that is going to be really, really helpful. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is, I say this to you guys each time, but if you go to the bottom of any one of my blogs, you can get my quick assessment tool. So this kind of connects to that comprehensive exam, because these are a lot of the questions that I'm going to ask you. And if you look at this form, you can go through these questions. And there's one for a youth here as well. Let me see if I can pop that up. They're really the same questions, so you can go through, kind of screen it. This is going to help you start to understand your impairment. But when I do your comprehensive exam, it's going to go beyond this. So I'm going to be asking you questions, and my goal is to connect the dots for you. So I want to know about problems nursing and toxic oral habits, and whether you had ear infection problems or airway problems, or whether you were a sick kiddo, you know, all of those things. But it doesn't matter if I'm the only one that learns it. It does matter, because I want you to learn it, and I want all of my clients to be able to understand why they need therapy, why it's important. They need to be able to see the value in that. So that's what we're going to talk about next week, and that's how the assessment tool ties into that. So like I said, you can get that at the bottom of any blog, okay? Last, I'm on YouTube. I am in the Tongue Tie and Myofunctional Therapy support group. You can find me on Instagram, lots of places. You can always reach out to me and email me if you have questions. So I'm here every week doing this, trying to educate and make sure that my community understands the importance of what I do and the importance of it in your life. So with that said, I am going to say have a beautiful Wednesday wherever you are, and I will see you guys next time. Bye for now.